Stuber, and in addition to being in the MD program, I'm getting a certificate in urban and regional planning. So my research focuses on land use planning through an environmental justice lens. And today is the hardest part, communicating everything that I learned effectively in only 5 minutes. So today my goal is to bring attention to an issue that I feel very strongly about and raise some critical questions for all the future leaders and managers in the room. So I grew up in Savannah, Georgia, and I grew up being told by individuals in my community where I should and shouldn't go around town. The streets that separate a safe environment from an unsafe environment. And I was aware at the time that those lines of division were strongly correlated with race, but what I didn't know was the very substantial role that local government played in drawing those lines. So fast forward to my first semester in this program, and with each new thing I learned about planning, and land use planning in particular and zoning, I made another connection linking planning to the systemic segregation and injustices that we are struggling with in society today. The zoning is a land use policy, a local land use policy that determines what can be built, where it can be built, and how it can be used. And it was originally created as a means to protect residential areas from nuisance development, such as heavy polluting industrial. But also often included under nuisance development were certain housing types, typically associated with lower income rungs that most certainly had racial undertones. And so the effect of zoning has been primarily to protect white and affluent neighborhoods, whereas low wealth and minority communities have not been afforded the same protections at the same rate, and were often even used as buffers to protect white and affluent neighborhoods from heavy polluting industrial. These decisions shaped entire communities and have impacted generations. Inequities today related to education, health, income, crime can all be linked back to the discrimination embedded in our early land use planning decisions. The environmental justice movement was launched in direct response to this discrimination. And environmental justice is rooted in the belief that low wealth and minority populations shouldn't be disproportionately exposed to environmental hazards, and they should have a say in the decisions that affect their environments. I've had the privilege of working with an environmental justice group in North Charleston called the Charleston Community Research Action Board, or CCRAB. They do research on environmental issues that then the community can take to advocate for policy to protect and enhance their environments. The neighborhoods that CCRAB works with and the subject neighborhoods of my research are primarily low wealth and African American, and not surprisingly are surrounded by heavy commercial and industrial development. So my research examines how local land use policy today is either contributing to or relieving those existing disparities. The question is not whether certain development is harmful or not, because we know it is. That's why zoning was created, to protect residential areas from harmful development. I look at the implementation of the policy, so which areas are actually receiving those protections and which aren't. My first step was to look to the zoning code itself. I grouped land use designations by their predetermined compatibility with residential. And then based on that compatibility, I assigned each of those groups an impact factor. So high and very high are incompatible with residential according to the zoning code. And then very high has the least amount of protections. Then I created a series of maps to show the distribution of these categories and patterns of land use decisions. I looked at current zoning and future land use plans. I looked at changes made to zoning and whether that zoning increased or decreased the impact factor. And here you can see a concentration of the high and very high impact factor, which is the red and orange, and that gets worse under future land use plans. Up in that section, it gets better. That area is known to be more white and affluent. So then I also applied a 500-foot and 1,000-foot buffer to all of those high impact areas to get a more accurate picture of the extent to which negative effects of high impact development are likely to be felt. So under future land use plans, which is what's here, the CCRAB neighborhoods are almost entirely, if not completely, covered. So what the maps show is clear. The CCRAB neighborhoods are significantly more likely to experience negative effects of high impact development. Future land use plans make it worse, and the only areas seeing any improvement are more white and affluent. So in closing, I ask you all, what do you think is the responsibility of decision makers today to right past wrongs? And if we can design inequity, can we design equity? So